Alright guys, super exciting today. We've got the 2021 Husqvarna TX300i in front of us. It's a brand new bike, so we're going to do a walk around. We're going to talk about what's different for 2021. Then we're going to go over the differences between this bike and its sibling, the TE300i. And then we're going to talk about why I chose the TX over the TE. So stick around. Not a lot of changes for 2021. Basically, they updated the mid-valve on the forks, on the air forks, to make it a bit more compliant. And then they did something with a new shock bushing to kind of have the same effect. Otherwise, just bold new graphics for 2021. Let's talk about the differences between this bike, the TX, and its sibling, the TE. Basically, the differences come down to suspension, gearing, and weight. So let's talk about the suspension real quick. The TX, of course, comes with the air forks, whereas the TE comes with a more traditional spring fork. Gearing wise, the TX has the semi-close ratio transmission, so first, second, third gear, they're all spaced pretty evenly apart, whereas the TE comes with the lower first and second gear. So it's got the wide ratio transmission. It's got that like granny low first gear, a little bit better for crawling, although some people do prefer the TX spacing for the little bit tighter ratios. The last thing is the weight. The TX is about 10 pounds lighter, and let's go into exactly why that is. First of all, the air forks are a good couple pounds lighter than a spring fork. Of course, you've got no headlight, no tail light. You also don't have the under fender mount where you could actually put a license plate. And then the TE also comes with at least a basic skid plate. TX does not, but even the TE skid plate doesn't cover the linkage. So I think on either bike you're going to want a more full coverage linkage guard. And then the last real difference is in the gauges, or the lack thereof. You can see the TX only has an hour meter, 0.7 on this one so far, brand new. The TE has actually a really nice strip computer. So that's nice to have on the TE. You lose that on the TX. So all of that adds up to about 10 pounds difference. The other thing worth noting is the TX no longer comes with the same wiring harness as the TE. It used to be on the TX you could just add the headlight and the wires were tucked up behind here. Now the TX wiring harness does not have provisions for headlight, taillight, or the fan. On the TE you can run basically a dumb fan that's controlled by the ECU because it has a harness for it. On this bike you actually need to run a full relayed harness for a fan. So that's kind of annoying that you don't have the provisions of the wiring harness. I'm sure it saves a couple of grams, which is probably why they did it. Maybe saves a few dollars as well. But otherwise, those are the main differences. The TX, of course, is Husky's cross-country bike. The TE is their enduro bike. But as you can see, the differences aren't super drastic. So I wouldn't say that if you're a racer you need the TX, and if you're a trail rider you need the TE. I think you can just look at the differences and pick the bike that's going to work best for you. So if you've watched my channel, you're probably wondering, given the kind of riding I do, which is tight technical single track, semi-hard enduro, you might be wondering why I chose the TX over the TE, if the TE is maybe the better enduro bike. I chose it for basically the reasons I mentioned around the differences between the two bikes. Weight was important to me. Now 10 pounds it's a significant difference. Is it a difference you'll feel out on the trail? Probably not. But coming from my 350 EXC, which was definitely a little too heavy for the type of riding I did, weight was important to me. I also didn't need some of the extras that come on the TE. And the other thing came down to the suspension as well. While the TE has great suspension and the latest version of the Explorer 48 spring fork is supposed to be quite good, I still know a lot of people that are revalving them to get it to work a little better in faster speeds. And higher speed riding is something that I want to get a little bit better at. I've heard nothing but phenomenal things about the suspension on this bike here with the air fork, and after half an hour of riding it, I'm finding it's plenty plush enough for hard enduro work that I'll be doing on it and the technical single track riding. The last reason is the gearing. I really didn't like the spacing on my 350. KTM has the same philosophy on the 4-strokes as well, as far as how they convert their semi-close ratio transmission into a wide ratio, which is they drop first gear substantially, a lower ratio, lower gearing, high ratio, and they drop second gear a little bit. So what they've done is they've made a granny low first gear, but they've made that gap between first and second quite big, and I didn't like that on my 350, so I really wanted to try this transmission, the semi-close ratio transmission, on this bike. So those are the main reasons. But like I said earlier, the changes aren't too drastic, the suspension and gearing being the two biggest ones. So hopefully this helps.